was talking to you about this off air. Hunter Luepke.
Yeah.
And I saw an article on Blogging the Boys talking about, Hunter Luepke could carve out a significant role with the Cowboys as a rookie. And it's interesting because they kept Luepke. They didn't keep Sean McEwen, who we thought maybe they would.
I thought they would, yeah.
They've got Dowdle. They've got Vaughn. ESPN had an article today talking about, some surprises and predictions for the season. They said they think the Cowboys are going to add a running back at some point during the season. Maybe that's a Leonard Fournette. But, Hunter Luepke certainly is also a guy that could step in and play running back for you in a pinch if you needed it. The short yardage role is something the Blogging the Boys is looking at. Last season, Zeke scored 14 touchdowns for the Cowboys. Maybe Hunter Luepke, that hard-nosed style, can fill in on some of those near the goal line, short yardage. Personally, I'm advocating for Dak to kind of take more of a Jalen Hurts approach. You're in short yardage. It's a yard or less. Dak's a big, strong quarterback. Go get that thing. And his conversion rate across the course of his career, if you look at the numbers statistically, he's really, really good. So I don't think that's going to be an issue, but maybe Luepke can play that role. You've got the John Kuhn comparisons. To me, it's fascinating because we're looking at him as a fullback, but even going back to our draft studying at North Dakota State, we've never seen him block.
That's the one question that I really have asked myself about, how they're going to use him, the role they're going to use him. I could see him because of the one-back runner stuff where he is, how physical he could be. We saw it in the game the other night when he had to take on that role. He did a nice job of when there was a little bit of a gap or a little crease, he was able to kind of knife his way through and fall forward and get some positive yards. There's not a lot of wiggle or quickness to his game, but there's some straight ahead power there. But that's what you saw at North Dakota State. And if they keep talking about him as a fullback, I haven't seen him do that. I haven't seen him go in there and they line up maybe a true like an I formation or line up in an offset I where he's a little bit to the left or the right of whoever the primary running back is, and then him going and attacking the edge or him going inside. Maybe this is something that they're going to show us when we get to the regular season. But even in training camp practices, I did not see that. Like when you start to talk about the really the good fullbacks and how, and there's a reason why that teams don't play because they're hard positions to find. It's difficult to get a guy to go in there. And even with McEwen, there were a couple of times they used him as a fullback and he went in there sideways.
Yeah.
It was almost like he hit with half his body, half man. And, if you're really good at this fullback game, you square up. And your nose goes right into the nose of whoever you're hitting, and you get your hands inside, and then you kind of let the backs cut off that. I haven't seen that from Hunter Luepke. And I'm sorry, North Dakota State fans that want to come after me and all that, but your guy is a good runner. He's a good catcher. But I haven't seen him, if you want to say, oh, well, he's going to play a fullback role. I haven't seen that.
I haven't either. And I like Hunter Luepke.
Maybe McEwen wasn't a good enough blocker.
Sure.
And because
no doubt
of the things I just talked about.
Right. It'll be fascinating to see how he is used. I don't know how big his role is going to be. Maybe it expands over the course of the season. But he's an interesting player and a fun chess piece for that offense to have because he can line up kind of as a tight end in the slot. We saw him do that in college. But interesting article I thought there from Blogging the Boys. Also, one stat points to the Cowboys as the best talent finders in the NFL. This is from @Jason_OTC. Cowboys currently lead the NFL with being responsible.
That's overthecap.com.
Over the cap, yep.
Yeah.
Responsible for starting the career of 82 players currently in the NFL. The Ravens are second with 77, followed by the Vikings, the Niners, and the Patriots. As the Cowboys, you talk about, they like their guys, what Stephen Jones always says. They've done an excellent job when it comes to drafting and developing. There might not be a better team in the NFL over the course of the last handful of years than the Dallas Cowboys, and that's kudos to Will McClay and the scouting department.
Yeah, they've done a really nice, and the thing that this scouting department, when they had to make changes as far as adapting to different coaches, they've done a really nice job of Will has gotten the scouts and the coaches and the Joneses all on the same page. It's a very difficult job to do over there, and he hasn't just made it a one-way street like, okay, the scouts are going to get it all or the coaches are going to get it all. He's done a really nice job of incorporating everybody together, and that's why they're able to. Now, I'll say this. there's some guys over there that are going to have to wear the Kelvin Joseph second-round pick. They're going to have to wear the Quentin Bohanna pick. And, when I'm talking about guys, that's a Will McClay. That's also a Dan Quinn. It's not, not all the picks are, they keep their picks, they do. I mean, with Junior Fajokos and people like that, Eric Scotts, who you might thought, well, maybe a year away, maybe 2 years away, they keep their picks. They don't move on from those picks, but there's some picks that they've moved on from 3 years ago that, so if you remember the good ones, but you also have to wear the ones that haven't worked out. And maybe they learned from a Kelvin Joseph or, Quentin Bohanna or that kind of, or even a Jabril Cox.
Right.
Is another one.
Shout out to Patrick Walker, who had a great article out on the Cowboys website about Jordan Lewis, who revealed that he's been battling through a challenging injury recovery and was grappling with mental health issues during that difficult time. And it's now just becoming more and more, appropriate and maybe less of a negative concept for players to be open and honest about their mental health challenges. Kevin Love in the NBA, certainly one. Dak Prescott, of course, another one. We get texts all the time from listeners that are dealing with whatever it might be, a variety of issues. I think on a day-to-day basis, we all struggle with that, and we're here for you. But I thought that this was a really cool piece. Jordan Lewis went on to say, in a heartwarming moment, the Cowboys staff and his teammates decided to show their unwavering support for him by paying him a surprise visit at the home. The gesture of solidarity, was deeply meaningful for Jordan Lewis, who expressed his gratitude for their support. He said, quote, "It made all the difference, honestly. When I was down, all the coaches came to see me. Dan Quinn, Al Harris, Joe Witt. Those guys came to see me, and it just made all the difference. To see they were fighting for me made it easier to go out there and perform." And I think, it's probably, Brian, you've been around these athletes for a long time. It's tough to be away from the team. You deal with an injury like that. You kind of lose your way a little bit. Maybe you have some setbacks trying to rehab and recover, and it can be a mental strain. And it's great to see Jordan Lewis back on the football field, should be ready to rock. But I thought this was a great piece, and I thought Patrick Walker did an outstanding job with this.
Yeah, Patrick and I do work with him, and then also Amber Garcia and then Derek Eagleton on the break. And we're getting ready to crank that thing back up full time. So looking forward to that. But the with the mental health aspect of the things, I'll say this about what I know about the Dallas Cowboys and how they handle injuries and stuff like that. With a guy like Jim Mauer's the primary trainer, but with what Britt Brown does, Britt will not let you feel alone here. Britt will go through that, and yeah, you're the one having to deal with the actual rehab, but Britt will be with you, whether it's on those cords, whether it's on the movement, anything they might do with inside, with equipment that they have and all that. I think they do a really good job of not letting you feel alone on these journeys and stuff like that. And I know there's guys that struggle with because they're away from the team and all that, but I've seen firsthand with my own eyes how well that those trainers over there at the Cowboys not only the doctors do a good job of putting guys back together, but these trainers do a really good job of making sure that. Let's give an example. Last year, if you go back and look at where Michael Gallup was, they were trying to get Michael Gallup ready for that Monday night game against the Giants. And he and Britt got together, and Michael says, "I don't think I could do this. I don't think." And Britt, instead of saying, "No, bro, you got to go do this. You got to go out there and play. He didn't feel comfortable playing. And what did Britt do? Britt went out there and backed his guy and says, "Okay, man, if you're not ready to play, you're not ready to play. We're good. We'll figure it out next week. We'll work on this." So I'm glad that some guys can get help, if need be. But I know those guys at the Cowboys, that staff over there does a hell of a job.
Great support system, and shout out to Jay Lou. Happy to have him back. Now, we got some awesome Micah Parsons audio that we want to share with you.
Yeah, shout out to Bobby Belt and Peyton Russell and Sean and RJ this morning, getting some good sound from a football life the Origins edition, which is about Micah Parsons. I'm like, this is like a football life on somebody who's been in the league for 3 years. This is a pretty prestigious honor. I feel like when they do a football life, they go back into the crusty age.
Retired players. Maybe you're going in the Hall of Fame.
Here's a Parcells or whatever. But now I guess they're doing it where it's like origin stories. So we'll probably get some younger current athletes versions of a football life, which is pretty cool. And so they did the Micah Parsons one, which you can stream on NFL Plus. And so we got a couple of good clips here. And we remember he played running back, Micah Parsons did, in high school.
How scary would it be to tackle him?
Oh my gosh, dude. They're showing clips of him, and he is a monster. And at one point, I believe it was his senior year, but he scored a touchdown on every four touches was a touchdown for him. He had 112 touches, and he had 27 touchdowns.
Woo.
Touched the ball 112 times, and he found Pater 27 of those times. Just ridiculous. And the clips, he looks like a man amongst boys. But listen to him talk about as a freshman. Like, this dude was a man-child. He's a freshman in high school. And listen to this story about his coming out party.
I was a running back. You know, they kind of already had their running back. And it was like, you could either play JV running back or you could play varsity and, you know, play defensive end. I was like, man, I'll play JV running back. Like, I was just betting on myself. It just got to the point there was like, no way we're letting you play JV running back. And so I was forced to play rusher.
So I remember the very first game when he was on varsity, on the varsity team, they had him as the backup.
We were losing. Guy rolled his ankle like in the first quarter. Man, I went out there and I put on the show. The second half, I had like 2 or 3 sacks. I ended up blocking the punt, returning for a touchdown. We ended up winning the game in overtime. And everyone was just like, who is this guy? Like, I'm a 225-pound freshman that just, got in the game.
Oh, my.
225.
Freshman?
Yes.
Oh.
And he's fast enough to be their running back. And they're like, well, we need you on Friday nights, and we need you to be an edge rusher getting after the quarterback. And that's exactly what he did. But he was 225 pounds. And to move the way he does, I feel terrible for these high school kids. Like, some of these high school kids, they need to do one of these deals where it's like a 30 for 30 on the opposing team. For like when you had to play Derrick Henry.
When you had to play somebody that was just mammoth.
Yes. Yeah. Like, and just hear from the kids who were getting stuck in, that guy's navel for 4 quarters of a high school football game as he just ran for touchdown after touchdown, or that quarterback who just had.
That's a really good idea, by the way. Like, okay, we always hear the story of the dominator. But how about like the story of the person?
The other side.
The other side.
Yeah.
Like,
if they're still with us.
You got run over by Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Tell me the story.
And then show the highlights. Or like, of you guys, and then you haven't described what just happened to you.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good idea.
I love that.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. Well, maybe we're
show you picking up your socks off the field.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a blindside block. It got me.
like that. Your
shows
helmet.
you with one cleat at the end and a ripped jersey.
Yeah. Like your
just
helmet
destroyed.
You're looking out your ear hole of your helmet. They show that, or
that was the day I became a man.
Yeah, maybe they show you kind of like this, like staggering off the field.
Some guys become a man in community college. I became a man that night. That Friday night in high school when Micah Parsons came to haunt my dreams for the rest of time. And I'm serious. When you watch it, and the sound is great, but when you watch it and you see the old footage of Micah Parsons, and it is very obvious who does not belong on that field because he is a giant human being who's moving way faster than everyone there.
He's reversing field. It's unbelievable, the athletic ability. And to start as a freshman, man, I remember when I was at Plano and Rex started as a freshman. In Texas high school football, that's rare. Like, you're special if you're starting as a freshman. Clearly, Micah was. And
Wolchuk, that is the second most famous person that Wolchuk's ever urinated next to every day between third and fourth period. 2010, I believe, a young woolly bully. 2009, next to Rex Burkhead, they had the same body clock, and what an honor that was for him.
It's amazing,
and I know you appreciated it as well.
My guy.